All right. I think we are live now. Thank you for everyone that's been participating in the chat before we started. Just very quickly before we get into the real heart of the talk today. So, Robin asked, have I noticed any studies symptomology with endocrine system, either from those vaccinated or those who have had COVID? Not it exactly endocrine system. So it's endocrine system. We have a lot of the things related to diabetes and things like that nature. I haven't looked into those precisely, but it's been known that COVID infections and also the vaccine has effect on the reproductive system. Now, it's still sort of endocrine, okay, particularly with the female menstrual cycle. So there seems to be some disruptions in both vaccination and as well as in the infections. And I've also seen that with family members. So that's confirmed. But other endocrine system, I'll have to look into it a little bit more. All right, so that's the quick answer to Robin's question. So, welcome everyone to tonight's stream. So, I want to give a little thought to what's coming up at the FDA vaccine related Biological Product Advisory Committee meeting scheduled this Thursday, January 26th. So, that's why I'm doing a Tuesday stream, which I've usually don't do that. But anyway, so and also look at a piece of viewpoint article published in the JAMA journal, written by Dr. Peter Marks, the current director of Center for Biologic Evaluations and Research at the FDA. So let's look at how they sound a little bit, with a dilemma, I would say that. And let's okay, so let's look at the what's going to happen with today's no Thursday's meeting first. So this is their announcement, okay, on their website. So I put it out on a full screen, and some viewer wanted me to have it more enlarged so that they can see a little bit clearer. So it is going to stream on YouTube, okay, from 8:30 this Thursday to 5:30 Eastern time. So if you have some time to tune in, feel free to. But I will be sure to update you guys as well after the meeting. So there's a whole bunch of documents that they've posted, and one of the documents that they've posted is a briefing document, which is 25 pages long. Okay, and I have the links to the documents in the descriptions below if you want to check it out. It's quite long, but basically it's not anything particularly new in their summary, at least from the first half of it. It summarizes some of the past events leading to the current authorizations of the BA.4/5 booster and some of the most updated evidence that show how the bivalent booster work in the real world. Now, it is from the FDA, right? So you don't expect so much different from them. You can expect what they said, right? They basically said bivalents are very useful, particularly in people 65 and above, in preventing hospitalizations and deaths. They also quoted a CDC study, says a bivalent booster can lower urgent care and emergency room visit in immunocompetent adults 18 and above. So I want to bring that up a little bit for a discussion. Okay. So this is the studies, okay, that they quoted and making the argument that everyone should get the bivalent booster because it lowered the utilizations of healthcare facilities, so it lowers the burden, the overall burden of the healthcare system. So now, when we go to the study and take a look, and it's basically tells you how they conduct the study, how many people were included in the analysis. But just the summary statement or the result statement here is that when they compare, okay, the bivalent booster, to other monovalent doses, it says having the bivalent booster, it is 56 more percent more effective against emergency room visit compared to no vaccinations. So this is, now it's only 56%. Okay, it's not terribly high. Now, when they compare having a bivalent, meaning that they have either two, three, or four monovalent, okay, and against someone with no bivalent, okay, that's 31% within that 2 to 4 months period. Okay. Now, when someone had a monovalent that is more than a year, okay, that went up a little bit higher, 50%. Now, so here is the problem is that it would seems that the 2, 3, 4 doses of monovalent somehow their effect is waned completely against emergency room visit and compared to someone without, okay, without the vaccines. Okay, 56% versus 50%, that is negligible difference. Now here we have to note that without the vaccine at this point, it's likely with some type of natural immunity. So here is a comparison after a year, maybe that comes down to very similar level of immunity at some degree. All right. So now, now here there's a lot of problems with a lot of these, similar study by the CDCs. So they noted that they said they're comparing bivalent booster with people that have two or three or four monovalent. You see a problem there. So they're lumping people together. Now they probably don't have enough population to segregate out, two versus three versus four versus five and all these. So meaning that someone who had their bivalent booster plus two or three or four of monovalent doses is compared to two, three, or four doses of monovalent doses. Now, so there's many variations, and they could be comparing someone who had 5 doses to someone who had two or three or four of monovalent. So collectively, okay, they were saying bivalent vaccine is better. So you're not comparing the exact head-to-head comparisons, right? The sad part is that I think we will never have enough sample size these days to make a direct comparison of bivalent booster as a fourth or fifth dose versus monovalent booster as a fourth or fifth dose. And why is that? Because monovalent boosters are no longer available here in the US. So maybe in some other countries we could rely on those data, but currently it's hard to make any direct comparisons. Now there's another study that they pointed out. I didn't haven't have a time to look at. Is Israel from a study from Israel. They were saying the bivalent is like 80 some percent in preventing hospitalizations and death in older people. All right, probably compared to a monovalent booster. Now, so there's another debate, right? Hospitalizations and death these days, there's also, it's hard to define. Is it COVID with, COVID from, so all these debate, I really need to read the study to get to know what is going on with them. So coming back to the briefing documents here. All right, coming back to the briefing documents. So one of the major theme that is going to happen or going to have some discussion is that the FDA right now is proposing, okay, to simplify the immunization schedule. And what they mean is that for people that are very young, okay, very young children, older adults, and people who are have immunocompromised should get 2 boosters every year, 2 dose series, and everyone else get 1 booster every year, likely in the fall, very similar to last year's campaign. All right. And so that's what they propose and what they are voting at the end of the day. What are the members going to vote at the end of the day? It's only going to be one question. Is to simplification of current COVID-19 vaccine use. So now instead of voting, how many doses they should be getting, they are actually voting a different thing. They're actually voting, if they should just give out one type of vaccines. So, as does the committee recommend harmonizing the vaccine strain composition of primary series and booster series or booster doses? meaning that they are going to likely get rid of the monovalent primary series and just give some form of a bivalent or future, whatever. It may not be BA45, okay, but it be something in the future as a primary series from this point on. So you're not going to see the monovalent uh, dose at all. That's what they are, voting at the end of the day. And I would be happy, definitely I would like to see who's going to vote against and who's going to support, vote to support these decisions. Now, do I think there is a problem? So just remember all of those original series, the monovalent series that is, coming off from the Wuhan strain spike protein, went through a very large randomized control trial. Now, the large is like 30,000 people, so it's quite large in a comparison standpoint before authorization. So we got a lot of data. Now, it's not enough, but it's better than none. What FDA is now proposing apparently is to push the COVID vaccine status into a flu vaccine status, right? Like where yearly updates, we get a yearly update, and if you're getting a yearly update, there's no way they can do a lot of trials. All right. So what are they going to base upon? Based upon immunological data. Just kind of have a deja vu of what happened in fall of 2022. It would appear to be like that. So now what it means is that they're getting rid, if they support getting rid of the monovalent, then when people are getting the first time getting COVID vaccine for the very first time in the future, they will likely get a form of bivalent vaccine or a versions that is updated for a future variant. And then you ask me, who are these people? Well, they would be the newborns, most likely, right? I believe someone who are not getting the vaccine at this time, is likely have, some type of immunity that they may not be likely to get a primary series again. So the newborns, okay, is going to get a bivalent vaccine, okay, of some sort in the future if that is being approved or being supported. Now, I'm not sure how comfortable that would be for parents with very young children, honestly. And remember, the FDA is pushing COVID vaccines to be like a flu vaccine, and we are not going to have clinical data anymore for future updated versions before rolling out. We're only going to look at those retrospectively, and like all these study we've been looking at from the CDC. It's just, with limitations, certainly with limitations. Any type of retrospective study have limitations. Now, and then you ask me, what about natural immunity? Now, it's funny with FDA. In part of their recommendation is, for a yearly booster, is that, well, they think that there's enough immunity built up in the population, so they just need yearly. But at the same time, they don't factor in things like recent infections and all these, right? What if you just got infection 2, 3 months ago? Is it the best time to get a booster? They don't talk about that. Okay. Remember, FDA, they look at the product. Okay. They look at the product. CDC will likely have a discussion later, but I suspect that they would just, say the same thing, wait for 2 months after infection, get a booster. I could be wrong about that, but I don't see any signs that they are changing the narrative at this point. So we will have to see what CDC said after the FDA meeting, after the FDA green lights something. All right. Now, so let's switch gear a little bit with this interesting article that was written by Peter Marks, Dr. Peter Marks. Now, I just said, I don't think CDC is going to change its narrative. But someone from the FDA may have a little bit slightly different opinion. Okay, so Dr. Peter Marks, who is he? That's what he looks like. His profiles on FDA websites. He's the director of the Center for Biologic Evaluations and Research. So he's the head that looks at vaccine products. Okay. Now he wrote an article along with his colleague, wrote an article and published in December of last year in JAMA, okay, Journal of American Medical Association. So a very high, prestige high tier journal. It is a viewpoint article, so very much similar to the like a opinion article we talked about last time from Dr. Paul Offit, in a way of speaking. All right, so the tone of this article, varies a little bit, okay, from the overall FDA CDC narrative. So here is some highlights that I spotted from this article. Now, Dr. Mark admits that having the public get a booster every 3-4 months presents some type of a dilemma. Okay, and he didn't think updating the vaccine booster the way that they are being updated these days is adequate as a long-term strategy to address COVID-19 in the population globally. So it's not a long-term fix. It's just a quick fix that what he thinks. Now, if he speaks for the FDA, and I don't know how much is his opinion or how much represents FDA from this article, it seems that the FDA they may not exactly like what the Pfizer and Moderna are doing by just modifying the vaccine a little bit each time. And here is an article here, another statement here. He said, simply updating the existing vaccine construct with new variant sequence or even making trivalent, quadrivalent, let's put four spike protein sequences into the vaccine covering several variants is not likely to provide depth and breadth of protection needed to interrupt viral transmission during a long, prolonged period. So basically is that, well, he doesn't think the current strategy is going to pan out in the long term, especially when they want to prevent some type of a transmission. Now, that is a formidable goal. So far, it has not been the goal. Prevent transmission, it's there. Okay, they want to talk about it. They want to find out how it does. Perhaps in some, prison system, there are some articles about that in some closed system. But that has not been the vaccination goal so far. Okay, now these things are not technically being. It's not going to be discussed in great detail. At least not going to be voted. Now, what are they gonna discuss later on? This Thursday is that, well, the what is suddenly blank, the Pfizer and Moderna, they're gonna present something. So I would be excited, excited, quote unquote excited to see what they present. Last time Moderna hid something, okay, from the committee, and this time I don't know how open they are. Okay, let's hope that they are going to be a little bit more open with their data. So now one last thing I kind of want to point out for you all to think a little bit deeper. And here it's a statement that I want to show you. All right. So, in the same article, he stated that the National Institution of Allergy and Infectious Diseases defined the threshold for influenza vaccine to be at least 75% effective in preventing influenza-like illness, achieving durable protection that lasts at least 1 year and suitable for all age group. So far, that's a pretty high standard for a flu vaccine, right? But unfortunately, now we haven't seen a COVID vaccine or any booster that can keep a 75% effectiveness against infections for a whole year. We have not seen that. And now it would appear that, FDA may be lowering some bar, okay, for COVID vaccine, in my opinion. Now, is it COVID equals COVID, flu now? I mean, now in vulnerable population, it is quite clear that COVID do more damage than flu, right? And when we talked about COVID death versus flu death versus COVID hospitalizations versus flu hospitalizations, there's a lot of complexity here. Even a lot of the doctors are even debating. There's no clear cut of COVID death these days. Are they dying from respiratory COVID, manifestations, or a something underlying, right? Someone who had kidney failure, chronic kidney failure. Okay, and then they come in with COVID, and that worsened the symptoms, and they passed away. Is it considered COVID death? That's a lot of debate, and how are they counted? It's still something that we don't have a good answer, at least in this country, right? So the no, here it comes the biggest dilemma that I think what's coming gonna happen. Now, the FDA wants the public to think the future COVID booster as a flu vaccine, right? A flu booster. Get it every year. They're gonna tweak a little bit. Will approve it or authorize it based on immunological data. All right. So that's what we have for the flu vaccine. But at the same time, they still don't want us to consider, or not necessarily FDA, the some type of a narrative there underlying there. They don't want us to consider flu and COVID to be the same thing, right? We still recommend self isolation after COVID infections. And I know some places still put a cap on the number of people in an event, despite having a lot of people being vaccinated already. So here is they want us to view COVID and flu differently, but they want us to view COVID vaccine and flu vaccine in a similar manner, accepting that based on immunological data. So how does that work, right? How does that work? I just it's kind of baffling for me. Let me know what you think. You know, how can we think of the vaccine as the same thing, very similar manner, and then think of the disease in a very different manner. That bothers me a little bit, and I would like to see some of your thoughts there. All right, so that's really what I want to talk about tonight, and let's see if I have anything from the comment sections. Um, yeah, let's see. Is there be any ages force grouping? Yeah, some old people are very healthy, and they're really not, grouping it right. At 18 above, there's a very wide range. Someone 20 to 30 is going to be different, than someone 50 to 60, right? So it is not exactly a good, grouping. So is it going to be EUA? Is it going to be EUA? Um, this At this point, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's either way or not. The bivalent we have right now is EUA. Okay, the primary series were approved, officially approved. So the chances are, if they are going to approving all these things as a final form, it may be grouped into childhood vaccination schedule. Right now, a lot of the proposed proposing them a COVID vaccine as a childhood immunization is uh, when they are fully approved. So far they are still EUA, so something is on hold at this point. All right. Uh, all right. So I have not seen the video regarding how vaccine recipient hook up to databases and uh, real time. I have not seen that video, but something about database and vaccine effects and all these. A potential future topic that I am kind of interested in look at is that if you remember before the booster campaign rolled out in the fall, there are a lot of modeling, right, saying that how much vaccine, how many vaccine can we need to be given or people need to get to prevent certain surges. I think it is probably time to re-examine how accurate those models were. All right, so right now the bivalent vaccine uptake has been not very high. All right, about a third of the 65 and above uh, got it, and overall 18 and above is pretty low. Have we seen a huge spike in hospitalizations and death? There's some trending up, but the last time I saw, the national trend is trending down a little bit. It seems to have peaked. That would be great, right? If things have peaked, that would be great. But I would need to look at it more detailedly. Right. So okay, so let's conclude our talk and discussion tonight. And thank you for everyone that tuned in and stopped by for this discussion. So let me know what you think, how we we want to treat the vaccine between flu and COVID in the same way, but we don't think of the disease in the same way, at least not even in a societal way. All right. Clinically, they are different, but societally, we still try to isolate people. We still try to have a lot of stigmatism against that. So something we want to have a deeper thought. All right, so that's that. I'm going to have my dinner, and everyone have a wonderful afternoon, evening, and take care.